Stop whatever you are doing right this very second. Put down your phone, pause your busy day, and listen to the sound of my voice, as if your very life depends on it. Because what I am about to share with you over the next several minutes might literally be the difference between a vibrant, powerful future and a devastating, life-altering diagnosis. I want you to close your eyes for just a moment and imagine the absolute terror of sitting in a cold, sterile doctor's office in America. The fluorescent lights buzzing above you, the uncomfortable crinkle of the paper on the examination table, and then hearing those words that drop the bottom out of your stomach. The words that change your life and your family's life forever. A pain that gnaws from deep inside your bones. A relentless exhaustion. The terrifying realization that your body has turned against you. As a medical information researcher and someone who has dedicated their entire life to understanding the profound mysteries of cellular biology and human longevity, I have to confess a heartbreaking, infuriating truth to you today. Most doctors out there, even the incredibly brilliant and highly specialized oncologists, are simply not sitting down with their patients who are over the age of 50 to explain the genuine root cause mechanisms of cancer prevention. And it is not because they do not care, but because the absolute most powerful, scientifically validated, life-saving interventions on the planet cannot be squeezed into a tiny plastic pill bottle. They cannot be patented by a massive pharmaceutical company, and they cannot be prescribed on a little pad. Before we continue, I want to make it very clear. I am a person who researches and synthesizes medical information, not your treating physician. The information in this video is for educational reference purposes only and does not replace professional medical diagnosis or treatment. These insights are synthesized from peer-reviewed research and clinical studies. Before applying any changes to your diet, exercise, or lifestyle, you must always consult your own doctor or healthcare provider. We are looking at a monumental, paradigm-shifting study from the prestigious halls of Harvard University. A rigorous, exhaustive investigation that tracked over 116,000 human beings for 28 long, revealing years. And the conclusion they reached sent absolute shockwaves through the medical community. They proved with undeniable statistical certainty that simply by altering a specific set of daily lifestyle habits, you can slash your overall risk of developing cancer by an astronomical 61% once you cross the threshold of your 50th birthday. 61%! That is not some experimental chemotherapy. That is not a thousands of dollars a month supplement routine. That is a profound return to the ancient biological roots of your own incredible body. Today, right now, in this video, I am going to rip back the curtain and walk you step by agonizing step through the 5 most powerful, life-altering daily habits you must adopt, ranking them from the foundational baseline all the way up to a miraculous, transformational habit that changes everything. Do not even think about skipping ahead or clicking away, because habit number 1, the absolute pinnacle of this list, addresses a catastrophic mistake that 90% of adults over the age of 60 are making every single night in the dark. A mistake that is quietly destroying their cellular defenses. But before we step onto the battlefield, I want you to drop down into the comments section right now and tell me your age. Tell me where you are watching from in the United States. And tell me honestly, has any doctor ever taken the time to truly speak to you about preventing this disease? Or are they all just waiting around to screen you for it once it is too late? I read every single comment because true healing begins the moment we open our hearts and share our pain. Let us kick off this countdown with habit number 5, the morning purification protocol. Something so deceptively simple, so quiet, that nearly everyone ignores it. And that ignorance is a fatal biological error. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The sun is just starting to peek through the blinds, and before your feet even touch the cold floor, before you reach for that hot cup of coffee, before you scroll through the endless negativity on your smartphone, you reach for a glass and drink 16 to 20 ounces of pure, filtered, room temperature water. Why is this an absolute matter of life and death? Because the moment you cross the age of 55, a silent malfunction happens inside your brain. Your interoceptive thirst sensitivity, your biological low-fuel warning light, begins to rapidly deteriorate. You could be walking around, day after day, profoundly and chronically dehydrated, your cells gasping for moisture, and your brain will never even send you the signal that you are thirsty. You see, your body is equipped with an extraordinary microscopic highway called the lymphatic system. And you need to think of this system as the ultimate biological garbage truck fleet. Every second of every day, it is sweeping through your tissues, picking up metabolic waste, clearing out damaged, mutated DNA fragments, and flushing away the toxic debris of living. But this entire fleet of garbage trucks runs almost entirely on water. When you are dehydrated, the fluid in those lymphatic vessels turns into a thick, sticky, stagnant sludge. The trucks break down, the garbage piles up, and that rotting cellular waste creates a raging fire of chronic, low-grade inflammation, which is the exact toxic soil where cancers of the colon, the bladder, and the kidneys take root and violently multiply. When you chug that 20 ounces of water the very second you wake up, you are throwing open the floodgates, turning the engine of life back on, and triggering a miraculous physiological process called autophagy. Autophagy is your body's self-cleaning oven, a quality control inspector that hunts down mutated, glitching cells and destroys them. A process that naturally drops by 30% after you turn 65. But you can hack this system. Squeeze a fresh wedge of lemon into that morning water, because the natural compound called delimonene, hiding inside the peel, is a ferocious, heavily documented anti-tumor agent that wraps a shield around your vulnerable DNA. Pair it with 10 minutes of light movement, because that physical action pumps the lymphatic system and dramatically accelerates the internal wash cycle by up to 40%. Water is merely the river. Now we must talk about the soil. We are moving the chains down the field to habit number 4, feeding the ancient ecosystem of your microbiome. And we are talking about naturally fermented foods that the longest living cultures on Earth have worshipped for millennia. Plain yogurt, miso, traditional natto, tangy kefir, and spicy kimchi. You need to understand the terrifying reality of what happens inside your stomach as the years tick by. After you hit your 60th birthday, the microscopic barrier lining your intestinal tract becomes dangerously fragile, thin, and porous, creating a catastrophic structural failure known as leaky gut syndrome. Suddenly, highly toxic bacterial invaders called lipopolysaccharides start leaking straight through those microscopic holes and flooding into your bloodstream, setting off systemic alarms and acting as a high-octane fertilizer for precancerous cells lying dormant in your tissue. But a groundbreaking study out of Stanford University proved that introducing fermented foods completely rewires this environment. These foods are loaded with armies of beneficial bacteria that march into your colon and start manufacturing a miraculous short-chain fatty acid called butyrate. Butyrate is like an elite, highly trained, microscopic security guard. It quietly patrols the dark corridors of your intestinal tract, and when it spots a rogue, mutated, precancerous cell, it does not negotiate. It literally orders that mutated cell to commit biological suicide, a process called apoptosis, effectively executing the threat long before it can ever multiply into a tumor. You must eat these live, unpasteurized warriors every single day, and you have to feed them right. Pair your morning kefir or your evening kimchi with a clove of raw garlic or a slightly green, underripe banana, because those specific prebiotic fibers are the exact rations your bacterial army needs to thrive. Are you still with me? Because the stakes are getting even higher. And habit number 3 is where we shift to absolute offense. We are talking about metabolic walking, a strategy so devastating to cancer cells, it almost feels like cheating. Throw away your outdated ideas of a slow, lazy stroll. This is a targeted biological strike against the enemy. Way back in 1931, Nobel Prize winner Otto Warburg uncovered the absolute Achilles heel of almost every cancer cell. They are hopelessly addicted to massive amounts of glucose for survival. But they are incredibly weak and terrified of abundant oxygen. They simply cannot survive in a highly oxygenated environment. When you lace up your shoes every morning and commit to 30 to 45 minutes of continuous, sustained, moderate intensity metabolic walking, you are dropping a 2-ton bomb on that vulnerability. First, your working muscles act like giant vacuums, sucking glucose right out of your bloodstream, brutally starving those cancer cells of the fuel they desperately need. Second, as your heart rate climbs, you are pumping a tidal wave of pure oxygen deep into your tissues, creating a hostile environment where those mutated cells simply suffocate and die. It is like pulling the plug on their life support. I want you to picture my old patient, Robert, a 72-year-old man who sat in my office trembling after the doctors found a precancerous polyp in his colon. He started walking every single morning, pushing his pace until he was breathing heavy. 2 years later, they ran the scope again, and his colon was completely clean. His inflammation markers had plummeted to the floor. As you cross age 65, your cell's power plants, your mitochondria, naturally start to wither. But metabolic walking forces your body to build brand new, roaring biological engines through mitochondrial biogenesis. Walk fast enough that you can still hold a conversation, but you are breathing too hard to sing a song. Now we are crossing the critical threshold into the final 2 habits. And this is where we transition from merely supporting your body to actively, aggressively shielding your genetic code at the most fundamental level. Habit number 2 is a botanical miracle that I often call the heat-seeking missile of the plant world. We are talking about sulforaphane, a powerful sulfur-rich compound found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower, but most potently and miraculously concentrated in 3-day-old broccoli sprouts. You see, your DNA is under constant and relentless bombardment every single second of the day from environmental toxins, oxidative stress, and the natural errors that occur during cell replication. To defend against this, your body has a supreme commander of its internal security detail, a genetic master switch called NRF2. When NRF2 is activated, it reaches into the very nucleus of your cells and turns on over 200 heavy-duty protective genes that produce antioxidant, enzymes, and internal detoxifiers that are thousands of times more powerful than any vitamin you can swallow in a pill. The tragedy of aging in the modern world is that between your 50th and 70th birthdays, this master switch naturally begins to power down and go, dormant, dropping your genetic defenses by a terrifying 40% and leaving the door wide open for cancer cells to take root and multiply. But scientists at Johns Hopkins University discovered something that changed medicine forever. They found that sulforaphane is the single most powerful natural activator of the NRF2 pathway ever identified in nature. It does not just act as an antioxidant itself. It forces your own cells to manufacture their own massive and endless supply of antioxidants. But there is a deeper and even more profound secret that most people in America never hear from their doctors. Researchers have found that sulforaphane specifically and ruthlessly targets what we call cancer stem cells. These are the evil generals of the disease, the tiny and incredibly resilient cells that often survive harsh chemotherapy and radiation treatments lying dormant in your tissues for years before causing a sudden and devastating recurrence. Sulforaphane goes after the generals. However, you must know the specific and non-negotiable kitchen physics required to unlock this medicine, because if you do it wrong, you are just eating fiber without the protection. The compound sulforaphane does not actually exist in the plant. While it sits in your refrigerator, it is created by a precise chemical reaction when two precursors called glucoraphanin and an enzyme called myrosinase are combined through the physical act of chewing or chopping. The major problem is that high heat completely destroys the delicate myrosinase enzyme. If you take a head of broccoli and throw it straight into a steamer or a microwave, you kill the enzyme instantly, and you get almost zero sulforaphane, regardless of how much you eat. To hack this biological system and reclaim your health, you must use the professional hack and hold method. You must chop your raw broccoli into tiny pieces and let it sit on the cutting board for at least 40 minutes before you apply any heat. This 40-minute window gives the enzyme enough time to create the medicine while the plant is still raw. Alternatively, if you are in a rush, you can reclaim a pinch of dry mustard seed powder onto your cooked broccoli, which contains a stable form of the enzyme and restores the anti-cancer power in an instant. For those of you over 60, I recommend consuming broccoli sprouts twice a week because they contain up to 100 times more sulforaphane than the mature vegetable. This is not just a side dish. It is a targeted genetic intervention that secures your future. Finally, we have reached the absolute pinnacle of this journey habit number 1, which I call Oncological sleep architecture and the incredible mechanical secret of your legs. If there is only one thing I want you to remember from our time together today, it is this. Sleep is not a luxury. It is not a period of inactivity, and it is not just a time for rest. It is a high-stakes, life-or-death biological mission that determines whether your body cleans itself or rots from the inside out. During the hours of deep and restorative slow-wave sleep, your brain opens up a specialized and highly sophisticated waste clearance system called the glymphatic system. Think of it like a biological power wash that floods your neural pathways with cerebrospinal fluid, flushing out toxic proteins and cellular trash that would otherwise lead to dementia, Alzheimer's, and brain cancer. But the true hero of the night, and the most important molecule in this entire video, is a hormone called melatonin. Most people in America think of melatonin as a simple sleep aid they buy at the drugstore. But in the world of high-level oncology, melatonin is known as a relentless and efficient assassin of cancer cells. Melatonin works through a process called the inhibition of angiogenesis, which is the complex way that tumors grow new blood vessels to feed themselves, and expand. Melatonin literally reaches out and chokes off the tumor's blood supply in the dark while you are dreaming. It also activates your natural killer cells, sending them on a search and destroy mission through every tissue in your body. But here is the crisis of aging. As we cross the age of 65, our natural melatonin production crashes by over 70% compared to our youth. And the fastest way to destroy whatever precious little melatonin you have left is by waking up multiple times every single night to go to the bathroom. A condition known medically as nocturia. Every time you throw back the covers, walk across the floor, and turn on the bathroom light, your eyes detect that light, and your brain thinks the sun has risen, and it immediately shuts off all melatonin production for the rest of the night. This shatters your restorative cycle and is officially classified by the World Health Organization as a probable human carcinogen. Millions of seniors are told by their urologist that their bladder is failing or their prostate is enlarged, but in 80% of these cases, the bladder is completely innocent. The true villain is simple fluid mechanics and the relentless force of gravity. All day long, as you sit or stand in your daily life, gravity pulls water down into the tissues of your lower legs and ankles. By 5 o'clock in the evening, your legs are like two saturated sponges, holding on to several liters of excess fluid. The second you lie flat in your bed at night, that gravity reverses its direction. All that hidden fluid rushes out of your legs and back into your bloodstream, causing a sudden and massive spike in your total blood volume. Your heart detects this dangerous pressure spike, panics, and releases a hormone called atrial natriuretic peptide, which screams at your kidneys to dump the excess water immediately to save the heart. This is why you wake up 2 hours after falling asleep with a full bladder, even if you didn't drink anything before bed. To save your sleep and protect your life, you must adopt the lazy elevation protocol every single night, exactly 1 hour before you intend to go to sleep. Find a comfortable spot on your sofa or your bed and prop your feet up high against the wall or a large stack of pillows. Your heels must be significantly elevated above the level of your heart. Lie there in total relaxation for exactly 20 minutes. This simple act of physics forces gravity to wring out the saturated sponges of your legs while you are still wide awake and conscious. Your kidneys will begin to process that fluid while you are watching television or reading a book. You will use the bathroom one final time before you get into bed, and for the first time in years, you will sleep through the night undisturbed. This simple act of fluid mechanics allows your brain to unleash a tsunami of cancer-fighting melatonin that can literally change your biological destiny and give you back the energy of a person 20 years younger. As we bring this intense and high-stakes journey to a close, I need you to look deep inside yourself and understand a truth that is often lost in the cold and frank, sterile data of medical journals. Your physical body is not a machine that is programmed to fall apart and die the second you hit a certain age. It is a breathtaking and miraculous masterpiece that holds within its cells an infinite and untapped capacity to repair, to regenerate, and to defend itself against the most aggressive diseases if you simply provide the right biological conditions. Even if you are 85 years old and you feel like you have lost your strength, your cells are still listening to you, and they are waiting for the signals to begin the repair process. But here is the final and most important piece of the entire puzzle. Your physical cells are constantly eavesdropping on your emotional and spiritual state. In America, we are currently facing a silent epidemic of loneliness and a sense of invisibility among our elders. This heavy emotional weight triggers a chronic and poisonous flood of cortisol that paralyzes your immune system and effectively shuts down your cancer-fighting pathways. You must find your Ikigai, your profound and undeniable reason for being on this earth. It does not have to be a grand or world-changing mission. It can be as simple as the decision to be here for your grandchildren, the commitment to tend to a beautiful garden, or the simple act of sharing your hard-earned wisdom with a younger generation. The biochemical reality is that the simple and profound act of feeling needed and having a clear purpose alters your hormonal profile and supercharges your immunity with a power that completely dwarfs any synthetic supplement ever created in a laboratory. You hold the keys to your own vitality, to your freedom, and to your independence, and you always have. If you feel the fire of truth in what I have shared today, if your heart is beating just a little bit faster, I am begging you to hit the subscribe button and join our incredible community of survivors and fighters. But far more importantly, take this video and share it immediately with a spouse, a friend, a neighbor, someone who is suffering in the dark, losing their sleep, and fearing their future. You might be handing them the exact lifeline they have been praying for, and you might save their life without even realizing it. And before you go commit to your future by dropping into the comments and answering me this: out of these 5 life-saving habits, which specific one are you going to conquer tomorrow morning? What is the biggest wall standing between you and a perfect night of sleep? Write it down, make it real, and know that I am. Here I am listening, and I am reading your words. I wish you a life of profound peace, a fortress of physical health, and a beautiful and quiet soul. One more time, for your safety and because it is the right thing to do, I must remind you that this content shares medical knowledge for educational and informational purposes only, and is not personal medical advice or a substitute for professional care. Every single body is unique and different. Always consult with your own trusted doctor before changing your diet, your medications, or your physical lifestyle. This is Sho Katsuma, and it has been my absolute honor to share this time with you. Take care of yourself, because you are worth every single effort.